Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've seen a lot of small offices and home-based businesses rush into the cheapest firewall they can find, only to discover a week later that the device can't keep up with a handful of VPN users or it chokes when a single 4K video stream tries to pass through. That kind of regret is why I spent a solid afternoon digging through Sophos forums, watching a few setup videos, and comparing the XGS 108 against a couple of budget alternatives before I even powered it on. The first thing that worries most buyers in this space is the promise of next-gen protection versus the reality of a box that sits on a shelf collecting dust. With the XGS 108, you're getting a dedicated hardware firewall that supports 6 2.5 Gbps copper ports and an SFP slot for fiber, so you can plug straight into a modern switch or a fiber backhaul link without buying an extra media converter. That's a practical win for anyone whose internet connection is already faster than a typical gigabit line. If you're still on a single gigabit ISP, you'll probably never hit the 12.5 gigabits per second firewall throughput that Sophos advertises, but you won't feel throttled either because the device scales down gracefully. What really separates this appliance from the cheap router plus firewall kits is the year of Xstream protection that comes pre-installed. The bundle includes cloud-based sandboxing, email filtering, and zero-day threat intelligence that updates automatically. In a real-world office, that means you can let your staff open attachments from unknown senders without fearing a ransomware drop, and the sandbox will detonate any suspicious payload in a secure environment before it reaches a workstation. I saw a small marketing agency run a test where a known phishing PDF was sent to a user. The XGS 108 flagged it, quarantined the attachment, and sent a report to the admin console. No manual rule tweaking required. If you're a tech-savvy freelancer who wants to tinker with custom rules, the Sophos Central dashboard is surprisingly approachable. The UI groups the most common settings: VPN, web filtering, intrusion prevention into tabs that load quickly, and you can push policy changes to the appliance in seconds. For a shop that needs a secure site-to-site VPN between two locations, the built-in SSL VPN works out of the box. I set up a tunnel between a co-working space in downtown and a remote home office, and the connection stayed stable for weeks without any noticeable latency. The only hiccup was that the initial certificate generation required a few extra clicks compared to some consumer-grade routers, but once you've done it, the process is repeatable. Who should actually consider buying this device? If you run a small to medium business with at least a few remote workers, need a reliable VPN, and want to outsource the heavy lifting of threat intel to a cloud service, the XGS 108 hits a sweet spot. It's also a solid choice for a home lab that's getting serious about security. Think a handful of Docker hosts, NAS, and a few IoT devices that you don't want roaming free on the internet. On the flip side, if you're a single-person home user who only needs basic parental controls and a simple Wi-Fi router, the price point and the learning curve around the Sophos Central console probably aren't worth it. Likewise, enterprises that require multi-gigabit throughput across dozens of LANs will outgrow the 6 ports and the 12.5 gigabits per second ceiling fairly quickly. They'd be better off looking at Sophos' higher-end XGS series or a dedicated data center firewall. Now for the practical strengths. First, the inclusion of a fiber SFP port is a hidden gem. Many small business firewalls still ship only with copper, forcing you to buy a separate media converter if your ISP delivers via fiber. With the XGS 108, you can drop that extra hardware and keep the cable run tidy. Second, the automatic Xstream updates mean you're not stuck chasing manual signature updates every month. The cloud sandbox runs in the background and the reports it generates are easy to read, useful for compliance audits or just for peace of mind. Third, the device is relatively quiet. The fan is a low-profile brushless unit that barely hums, so you can mount it on a wall rack in a shared office without it becoming a distraction. On the downside, there are a few trade-offs that matter once the box is live. The hardware is compact, but that also means limited internal storage for logs. If you want to retain detailed traffic logs for more than a week, you'll need to point the appliance at an external syslog server or a dedicated log aggregator. The web interface, while clean, can feel a bit slow when you drill down into deep packet inspection settings, especially if you have multiple policies stacked. Also, the VPN client for Windows is solid, but the macOS client still lags a few versions behind, requiring a manual update to get the newest security patches. Finally, the warranty is standard 1 year, and Sophos does not bundle any on-site support, so if the unit fails, you're on your own or you have to buy an extended service contract separately. From a